Should I build a home studio or should I go to a professional studio to record? This may be a question that you're asking yourself, especially if you're somebody just coming into the music industry and just starting to craft music for the first time. In today's video, I'm going to help you decide which option you should pursue, and we're going to talk about every single thing you should consider along the way. Are you ready? Let's go. Are you an artist, producer, engineer, or music professional that's looking for funding for your music career? Could you benefit from having funding for studio time, mixing and mastering, or even marketing costs? I think I have something for you. I've written a free ebook. It's 9 pages, super short and digestible, where I break down the 6 main places that artists and professionals like yourself can find funding for their musical projects. If this sounds like it's of value to you, please click the link below and you can download this for free today and benefit from this knowledge. I hope this helps. I'll see you guys soon. Peace. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is your boy 5-Piece producer and engineer extraordinaire. Thank you for checking out today's video, and if you haven't already, please hit the bell and the subscribe button below to stay tuned for more helpful videos. I'm covering a lot of amazing topics, including technical stuff like mixing and mastering, but also more career advice driven stuff like what you're seeing in today's video. Now let's talk about this. Which option would you rather explore? Should you build your own home studio or should you record somewhere professionally? There's a lot of things to unpack and think about with this question, and I want to bring up a couple of things for you to consider before answering it directly. Let's consider the first thing. What's your role in creating music? Are you a producer? Are you an engineer? Are you an artist? And the reason why we want to answer this question is we want to have an understanding of what equipment you're going to need in order to do what you want to do. So for example, if you're a producer, you can get away with probably just having a laptop, some headphones, and a DAW to work on. But if you're an artist, you're going to need other things. You're going to need a microphone, you're going to need proper headphones, you're going to need all kinds of stuff. It's going to be a little bit different from other people. But by knowing this, you're going to have a good idea of what you should buy should you decide to set up your own home studio. The other thing you want to consider is how serious are you taking music right now? Are you a hobbyist doing it for fun, or are you trying to be a professional and make a full-time living from it? The answer is going to make this even more important because investing in equipment is expensive, and by knowing that you can get a return on it, it makes it easier to buy equipment. The same goes for if you decide to go to a studio. You're going to have to be paying these people on an hourly basis, and you want to make sure that you're able to get your money's worth. If you're a hobbyist and you're not taking things too serious, you're just trying to do things for fun, you may just want to casually go to a professional studio once in a blue moon just to have a good time and treat it as more of an entertainment kind of thing. However, if you're somebody who's doing this a bit more professionally, you may want to do the combination of going to a studio and having your own home studio setup so that way you can lay down ideas when you're writing, but then also go to a studio if you want to get a different aesthetic, maybe capture some content along the way, or collaborate with different people. Now, the other consideration I want to bring up is, are you comfortable with engineering and learning the technological aspects of making music? Or are you purely looking to perform in order to create art and let someone else handle the technical difficulties? Now, the truth is, if you're not that technically savvy, then you're probably going to want to avoid setting up your own home studio because it's just going to lead to a lot of frustration and probably a lot of money wasted on equipment that would be better off for somebody else. For that reason, you're probably going to want to go to an actual studio. They'll take care of all the technical problems, they'll give you your time slot. All you got to do is show up, perform well on the mic, and let the engineer and producer do what they need to do. However, if you're somebody who is a bit more technically able, then you may want to actually buy your own equipment, buy a computer, buy the speakers, buy everything that you need to record. And of course, you're probably going to have to deal with the learning curve of working with that equipment and learning how to use a DAW like Pro Tools or FL or Ableton or whatever it is you choose to use. Something else that's important to think about is, are you creating something for a specific project, or are you loosely writing music with no specific aim right now? If you're just loosely recording music, you probably don't want to invest into a studio. It's a little bit more expensive and you're not really obviously going to be sure of what you're going to get from it. You may go in there and have a completely unproductive day, but you're still going to have to pay the bill at the end of the session. However, if you're creating music casually and you have a studio at home, you can walk in there at any given point and just do whatever you want to do. You don't have to worry about paying anybody or wasting time. You can literally just go at your leisure and be comfortable in your own environment. So let's talk about the pros and the cons of having a home studio and going to a professional studio to record. Let's start first with the home studio. For home studios, the pros are: 1, convenience. You can walk in and create whenever you want to. The other thing is it's affordable. There's only one-time expenses to purchase all the equipment and ongoing expenses required for maintaining gear and paying for the electricity to run it. It might be a little bit more upfront, but over the long term, it should be more affordable rather than constantly booking studio time. Accessibility is another consideration. You're always able to access your studio without having to go through a third party to book because the studio is yours. Another benefit that people don't realize is by having a private studio, you have a meeting place. This can help you facilitate meetings and collabs with fellow creators, and it allows you to control the setting without having to rely on other people. And the other thing is, studio is leverage. Having a studio provides a competitive advantage because it's something that you can use to provide value to others in order to cultivate better connections, especially if it's set up as its own room and not a part of an apartment or bedroom living space. But what about the cons? Let's talk about the cons for a second. The first thing is there's no networking. Having a home studio is not going to facilitate many in-person networking opportunities because it's in your private home, which likely doesn't see varying clients every day. Music is an expensive hobby, and it may take time to acquire all of the gear and proper treatment needed for it to be an ideal working environment. The other thing is there's distractions. If you live at home with other people, they can be distracting and pull you away from your creative work, which is the opposite of what you want the studio for. Sometimes having somewhere physically to go to helps with creativity, as you know you are going to the studio with the specific intention to create. Not being able to go in there whenever you want helps make the time spent creating even more impactful. Now let's talk about the pros and cons of a professional studio and going there to record. Let's talk about the pros. The first thing is the setting. A professional studio settings usually have highly musical aesthetics, and that can help inspire and enhance your creative moments when you're working. The other thing too is professional studios offer networking. Being at a studio can help facilitate more professional networking opportunities amongst engineers, producers, songwriters, artists, and even labels that you cross paths with, especially while you're attending sessions. This usually leads to connections being made that doesn't really happen at someone's bedroom studio. And the other thing is quality. You're paying a studio for a service, partly for the space to rent, but also for the time for a qualified engineer to help you make your music sound the best that it can. That, coupled with high-end equipment, is usually a recipe for better quality music than what you would achieve at home. However, results will vary based on the engineer, studio, and you as an artist. What about the cons? Let's talk about the cons. The first is cost. There's usually a long-term higher cost as you are billed by an hour at a studio, with most starting at least $50 per hour. The other thing is scheduling. Booking studio time will always depend on a studio's availability. Busy studios may not have any time for your sessions, or you may have to book well in advance to secure a slot. This may be challenging for certain types of creators who are less organized and more sporadic with their creation. And the final point is building chemistry. As you are booking a studio, you will likely be working with an engineer from that studio. And while they are there to service you, you must be mindful that you need to build chemistry to become familiarized with each other's sound and taste. This usually takes a few sessions, and it can be challenging depending on how personalities connect. So the question now becomes, should I build my own home studio? I think it's always a great idea, no matter who you are, to have somewhat of a home studio set up. Even if it's just a simple laptop, headphones, and a DAW, or maybe a mic as well if you're an artist. The truth is you want to be able to get your ideas out, and you want to be able to do it economically, because sometimes you'll book a studio and the time won't be used that productively, or maybe if you put too much pressure on yourself, you're not going to be able to create the music that you want to make while the clock is ticking and while you're being billed hourly. So for that reason, it's good to have just a casual home studio setup so you can just start getting your ideas flowing and still use a professional studio if you need to work on the final good copies. Now, the other side of that coin is, should I go to a professional studio to record? And the answer is yes, you should. You should absolutely still go to a professional studio, if for nothing else than the networking. I find myself going to professional studios from time to time, checking on homies, seeing other people, and of course shaking hands and making sure that my presence is felt, because networking is so critical in today's music climate. Like they say, your net worth is your network, and the best way to build that network is to go to a space where other creatives are often at. And other studios is exactly that. So what's the verdict? If you're a hobbyist who's just looking to make music for fun, you should probably just build your own home studio and learn how to use the tools at your disposal. It's not really that important for you to go to a studio and spend all this money making music if you're not really going to get a return on it, and more importantly, if you're not trying to. If this is just fun for you, let it be fun, take things casual, and enjoy. However, if you're somebody who's more serious, you should absolutely be doing both. You should have a home studio, like I was saying, and you should be going to professional studios, if not for anything else other than networking. However, working with other engineers and getting other creative input will also be helpful. So as you can tell, a best of both worlds approach is likely going to be best if you are somebody who's taking their music a bit more seriously and looking to build a lucrative career with your music. I hope you got value out of this video. If you did, please smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. And of course, leave me a comment below. Let me know what else you want me to talk about in future videos. And I'm looking forward to helping you again soon. Definitely subscribe as well if you haven't yet. I'm gonna leave that here, and I'll help you guys again in a bit. Peace.
5.